going to talk about a decision that's got to be made in every new house, and that is hurricane protection. As you can see in this house, this is a point where the homeowners have made a decision on their floor plan and everything, and now it's under construction. So most contractors at this point in time will turn around and say, okay, it's time to pick out your fixtures. And one of the things they're going to say is you also have to pick up your hurricane protection. There are really three main types of hurricane protection that are normally used. That is plywood, metal shutters, or fabric type of protection. So these are questions you have to answer. So which one is best and which one can I afford? What is required in Beaufort County? You have to choose one of these products. The code requires two elements to be met. First element is design pressure, or DP. That's the internal pressure of a house. It's like a balloon being blown up, okay? When the balloon gets popped, you understand that real easy. It's a real easy visual. The second concern is impact protection. For all of your openings, you have to make sure that if an item flies into that opening, whether it be a door or a window, and hits it, that the hole created does not let that balloon effect happen there. The internal pressure goes crazy. So the DP is mostly met in most homes in the door and the windows that you purchase. But the impact protection is mostly what we're talking about. What I wanted to do right now is talk a little bit about each item. The first item we'll talk about is plywood. Plywood is the most common hurricane protection for people who are doing their own hurricane protection. But the question becomes, why would I really want plywood on my house? My answer is you don't. Let me explain why. Plywood has three inherent problems. First of all is the weight. A piece of plywood can only go so far. Normal plywood is 4 foot wide, 8 foot tall. So that becomes a problem when you're looking at a window that's 3 foot wide, 5 foot tall, because that means for every opening you have to buy a piece of plywood. And for every opening when you're installing it, you got to pick up that piece of plywood. It becomes very heavy. So the question is, can you physically do it? The second place is where you're going to store it. Well, in the low country, we have limited storage. Most of the time when I see plywood on a house, it's leaning up against the wall in the garage, taking up a lot of space. Also, there are other inherent problems with the plywood in the fact that we have a lot of moisture, and it collects moisture and deteriorates. So 3 years from now, you may actually not have plywood that's integrity. And the last thing on plywood is the actual ability to stop a projectile. Normally when when it's tested with plywood, that projectile goes straight through. And on other products like our hurricane screen, which is a fabric screen, it normally bounces off. Before you're gonna penetrate it, it's gonna have to be up way above our code requirements before you can do it. The second option is metal shutters, metal panels. They're heavy. Second of all, normally they will cut you. And I've seen that a lot and heard it a lot in the field when people are installing their screens. The third problem is that when they're up, like plywood, you're basically creating a cavern. We hear a lot of complaints after deployments because it turns the house into a black box you can't see out. Those are the inherent problems with plywood and metal shutters. The final product is fabric shutters. Fabrics are a lot of times your strongest material to use for hurricane. They're also your most versatile. Some of the fabric shutters have requirements that limit their use. For example, one fabric product that's on the ground cannot be folded, while the product that we use, the armor screen, can be folded, which gives you a solution to your third major problem. Where are you going to put it? With a fabric product, sometimes you can put them in smaller spaces, unlike plywood and unlike metal, but sometimes you can't. However, with armor screen, we can actually fold that product. You can actually hang it from the corner of your garage on a bicycle hook. It's still within view, but it's out of your way. In your consideration as to which hurricane product we need to cover, you need to seriously think about what it's going to cost you if you don't have hurricane protection up on your house. I've called around and checked what the deductibles are for hurricane events in your home. And there's two items that you need to think about. First of all, the insurance companies around here will average a 2% deductible on the value of your structure. From a $500,000 house, 2% relates to a $10,000 deductible. And remember, the code, which plywood meets, only protects the structure. When you have a punched hole in your house, you need to make sure that you keep all the water you can out of your house. So one of the advantages of fabrics is the fact that it does that the best, because the insurance company is concerned about not only the structure standing, but also everything inside your house. So that's one of the reasons why paying a little bit extra for a good hurricane protection product is very important. One of the questions that I always ask, can you install the product? That is absolutely critical, because if you can't install it, you may be able to find somebody, but you may not. So the question becomes, can you climb up on a ladder? Can you lift a piece of plywood and put it in place and then add a thumb turn? Because if you can't do it, then your home is not protected, and you may have huge deductibles to pay. I've been doing this now for 10 years, and I've put in all of these products that you're talking about. But we made the decision about 5 years ago to go with Armor Screen. And the reason why is because Armor Screen solves every problem I run into in a house. It is easily stored, it is very light to install, and also this screen, the RGS, is only one of 56 different ways I can set the screens up to be deployed. One of the more popular ones is, if you have a second-story window, is called our Hemcord Track product, which allows you to actually install the screen on a second-story window without having to go up a ladder. That's why we highly recommend that you start with an Armor Screen product, because we can solve all the problems that you will have. This protects the most valuable thing that most people own, and it's their home. Everything you own is in that home. And that's why it's very important that you make the right decision on which hurricane protection system you're going to deploy on your home, because codes requires you to do one of them. And I think you should do Armor Screen. So if any of what I've just shown you brings up some more questions, please give us a call. The number is 843-521-0102, or you can get in touch with us at ocsontheweb.com. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll be glad to answer them.